Kai is the founder of BubbleBot, an AI-powered robotic barista that crafts your perfect bubble tea at unbeatable prices. And the idea for BubbleBot started when Kai saw many queues outside bubble tea shops on the way to campus.
And every morning I'd look out for what is the future, what is the demand. At the end of Waterloo Bridge, I would see T4 with the most incredible queue in the rain. No one has umbrellas, just getting wet in the rain for
bubble
one
tea.
cup of bubble tea.
And he thought to himself, there must be a faster and more effective way to get bubble tea to people. And so the BubbleBot was born.
I really thought this would start a conversation for the future. Maybe not just bubble tea, but why can't any drinks be made by a robot?
Yeah.
Why can't your bartender have a robotic arm in a bar, for example? I really learned everything about my idea, and I think that's really important, that when people get an idea, before you then present it to your friends and family and present it to interested parties, really learn everything about your idea. I think that comes part and parcel of being a perfectionist. I think you have to seek perfection in entrepreneurship.
Anyone who uplifts the bubble tea brand to spread joy by making bubble tea more accessible is doing great work in my eyes. Without further ado, we're really excited to welcome Kai to the podcast. Hi. So, what are you drinking today? That's how we start the podcast usually.
From the Bubbleology order, I've got the Dragonfruit Bubble Tea, which was a choice I made as a little bit of market research slightly, but also because I'm intrigued how it tastes.
Yeah.
I think it's good to keep the competition close.
Yeah, for sure.
See how everything's tasting, see how my bubble tea, which is here, compares.
Yes, the BubbleBot bubble tea.
This is BubbleBot Passion Fruit Bubble Tea. But yeah, I'm excited to try.
Yeah, so initially on the podcast, by people's orders, we do a little bit of analysis on them. And because you ordered Dragonfruit, this tells me you're open-minded, you're adventurous, you're quite bold with your choices, and you're quite convicted in them. Because I've never spoken to anyone who's ever ordered Dragonfruit.
I think that could be the case.
Could be,
but
okay.
I think it could be that I've exhausted every other flavour of bubble tea that I could try. And kind of from then, this is one of the few ones I have not tried.
Yeah.
So I thought, let me broaden my horizons and why not?
Why not?
But I like that, how you get little pieces of information from.
Yeah, these are just
orders.
kind of my little summaries. They might not be true.
I mean, we'll
Do you know
find
what I mean?
out.
We'll find out. Feel free to tuck in. Do you need a straw? Or?
Yes, I'll borrow a straw. Perfect. They have a little interesting branding here where they have a kind of a target.
Yeah. And how you put the
aiming for the target, or that's.
Do you know what? You're really observant, because I did not even look at that.
So when I see Bubbleology's branding, I always think the seal looks off center.
On it. Do you know what? The guy at the bubble tea shop yesterday was having a lot of problems sealing the drinks.
Sorry, can I just say my seal by the machine is on center. I don't know if you can see that on camera.
That is
Completely
fresh.
on center.
And that is centered. So maybe next time.
Seal's slightly off and it's human done. I don't know if that says anything about if humans are more capable than robots.
True.
I'm not sure. Are you tucking it? Or are you
Yeah, because poor guy was struggling with the sealing machine. He was like, it made the order so long. He was trying to reseal and get it right. So actually, robotic AI baristas, you see, it's a very clean and less, I guess, laborious process.
Did you get the chance to choose sugar content on this?
I did. I chose 50%.
Yeah, that's a classic. 50%.
Yeah.
I usually find 50% on the sugary side.
I'm
I'm not a big sugar in my diet person, but.
Do you know what? Actually, I could have asked more about what sugar content, because 50% on bubble teas is still quite high.
That's something I found in the industry first week of opening, because we were just so rushed to get everything right.
Yeah.
We didn't have the sugar setting.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? It won't be a big deal in the first week, first day. The hordes of people saying, what percentage is the sugar?
Yeah.
It says I can't add any sugar. What is the sugar? And I said, look, I'm working on it.
It's a work in progress.
And that was something I had to improve on in the first day or two. Straight away, I thought, that's it. And now we have fructose and sucrose where you can add whatever you want, which is, I think, a must, because people were so particular in terms of some like matcha really sweet and some like matcha without sugar.
Yeah.
And then they're two different flavors. So I think that is important, definitely keeping that option open.
Yeah, you get a spectrum of people, because some people are quite health conscious, still want to enjoy bubble tea, but don't want all that sugar. Because I remember I took my sister for the first time to drink boba. And I was like, go for 50%. I'm telling you, anything above that is going to be super sweet. She was like, no, 50% is too little. She eventually went for, I think, 75, and she couldn't even finish it.
That speaks to some of the difficulties, I think, about running a machine for something like a beverage industry, which is so personalized and so kind of specific, where some people kind of tell the bubble tea barista, for example, that they want it a certain way, but you can't have that dialogue with the machine and and so I think it's so important for us that we get everything as perfect and as many options. You can choose your ice,
settings,
you can choose if you want hot, cold, sugar, what percentage you'd like, what toppings you'd like. So we got it really specific. So there is as many options as you can. I think we are limited to 7 flavors, whereas I think you can do a lot. I know Bubbleology has a lot more.
They've got a lot, But
I think we're trying to really build a prominent brand around those flavors that we have, those set flavors, and build from there.
It's good as a starting point, because I guess some of the other flavors are definitely not maybe used near enough for you to even have them in at the moment.
Exactly. It's one of those things where we need to fill a lot of a few, so it's kind of worth doing. Otherwise, if somebody only orders 1 dragon fruit a day and we have dragon fruit, there's a lot of tea wastage, obviously, because it's fresh tea every day. And it's not like a store where you can make as much as you sell. It's quite specialized in that way. So I think focusing on our big sellers, is the main focus for us now.
Yeah, for sure. So the first section of the podcast is going to delve into a bit about your background, about how you came to the problem of bubble tea and things like that. We just really want to delve in and get these actionable insights that you did from zero. I mean, you've not even been running for 6 months, but 0 till the month you have been running, just so that when people watch the podcast, they can say, Kai did this, this, and this to start his business. Maybe I can do that to start my business. So the first thing is, how did the idea of BubbleBot come about?
So I'd like to say first that anything I say might not work for other people. I think I can only speak to myself, and that I'm not proposing that I'm a made-it entrepreneur. I'm still very much in the field. I'm very, very new. I'm only kind of a month in with my business. But I can speak to things that helped me. And for me, my background is a London-based background, grew up in London, was schooled in London, and experienced London and as a city that is kind of at the forefront of the UK and leading in Europe also. So I was always becoming fascinated with the future, what the trends are, where the city will go in the next 10 years, because I always see the city as the kind of marker of development.
For sure,
You'd see the outskirts or the kind of areas outside the city as 10 years before the city almost. I mean, that's my take from the geographical side of things. So that's what really interests me. And the way the bubble tea idea came about was I traveled over Waterloo Bridge kind of every day to university last year. And I always challenge myself to travel without the aid of AirPods or podcasts or playlists or anything like that.
What inspired that?
Only in the morning. Because I do understand the aids that music can calm you down, and music can give you motivation, and podcasts could give you like this could give you quite a good learning resource. But I think in the morning I like to be without anything, just so I can experience the world, because I think there's a danger of being slightly disconnected.
Maybe overstimulated.
Exactly. And every morning I'd look out for, what is the future? What is the demand? What am I seeing? Patterns, trends. And I would see every morning outside at the end of Waterloo Bridge, I would see T4 with the most incredible queue in the rain. No one has umbrellas, just getting wet in the rain for
bubble tea.
One cup of bubble tea. I would see kind of in the snow, icy, people waiting for their bubble tea. It was a really hot day, people coming out with hot bubble tea. I mean, it was incredible, this demand, especially kind of garnering prices of £5, £6, £7 even. I thought this has got to be the future, and this is something that there is a real gap between T4, which is at the end of Waterloo Bridge, and LSE, which is maybe a 10-minute walk up Holborn, up the Strand. So I thought an idea would be bring bubble tea closer to campus.
Wow.
I was hit with the rude awakening that can't afford a store, I can't afford staff, I don't have that background in bubble tea, it's a lot to take on. So I thought instead of letting that bog me down, let me find a solution. Let me find some way I can adapt my capabilities. Utilize my strengths to my advantage. And kind of I see my strengths in seeing the future and seeing innovation and getting logistical things done. And that's where the bubble tea machine came about.
I love how you said that, like in that silence came like solutions to problems that perhaps podcasts and music can, distract you. I love that in the morning you really have that quiet time to yourself to really like
I think it's important. I think it's really important because people go about their day and don't see things that are around them. I think if you're looking to get into entrepreneurship, you need to see where the problems are, you need to see where the demands are, and you can't see that when you're kind of in your own world almost. You need to be in other people's world, in other people's shoes to see, I don't know, are people on the train every day with a coffee, or are the people on the train every day with a bubble tea? See these patterns, trends, and that's kind of how I adapted different parts, maybe not just the idea, but also what time we open now. Across the road opens at 12 noon. We now open at about 10:30 because bubble tea is not really a morning thing. I don't see anyone on the train in the morning commute with a bubble tea. So there was kind of no logistical benefit of going early. So yeah, I think you always pick things up, even if they're not the main idea. You'll pick up nuances, you'll pick up kind of developments of an idea through being aware of what's around you.
Have you heard that quote where it's like, man's problems would be solved if they could sit in a room alone in silence?
No, I haven't.
But what you've just told me just really reminds me of that.
I think there is, in an age of so much stimulation, there is always ways that you can disconnect and really figure out the problems and figure out the demands of the future. I think that is the best way.
Yeah, brilliant. So you saw this problem. How did you go about building BobaBot? Like you go from, I think we should have this machine closer to uni, I can't afford a shop. What did you do next?
So I've always been interested in AI as it kind of is parallel to, I think, the future. I've always been interested in what's the trend, what is the newest thing. And I kind of stumbled across an idea that there is a manufacturing way of making a machine with an arm that could make bubble tea.
Yeah.
And this machine was very rare. There was one in Singapore at the time of a very old model, and it looked to me a little bit gimmicky, but it looked like an idea that I could work with. I got in contact with the only manufacturer that manufactures this machine, and I said to them, look, can we rework the machine? Can we get it? Can I
make it my own?
can I make it look a bit better?
Yeah.
And can we kind of talk about the logistics of this machine? And the more I learn about how kind of they were very eager to work with me, the more I was so infatuated and so interested in the idea that I went away and I did all the research I could about the idea. I delved into bubble tea. I got really into bubble tea all of a sudden. I spoke to a lot of people who could have advice for me in this industry. I did a lot of research on the machine, the financial side of what it would do. I began thinking about who to go to action this idea. I really learned everything about my idea, and I think that's really important, that when people get an idea, before you then present it to your friends and family and present it to interested parties, really learn everything about your idea, because there's nothing kind of worse that will kill your idea than you having a great plan and somebody says a question, have you thought about this? And that's just a roadblock, you know what I mean? Of course, you'd want to be someone that can overcome anything, but I think being really prepared will mean that people take your idea very seriously, think that you've thought this out, rather than just something that you saw on your commute and you thought as a long shot idea. I think it's really important to have that idea really concrete in your mind.
It's funny because we've had two guests before you and they've said the exact same thing about knowing everything about the problem, everything about the industry before even starting to build anything. So it's really interesting to hear that you believe the same thing.
I think that was really important for me, because when I began researching who was the interested parties in getting the bubble tea machine into LSE, I realized very quickly these were quite senior members, quite
Yeah.
important established members of the LSE. And I did a lot of cold emailing, got a lot of no responses.
I imagine so,
But
yeah.
I did get a response from the secretary of the estate's head at LSE, a man called Julian Robinson, who was really integral in getting the idea going. But I got a meeting with him, and I kind of wanted 5 minutes. I said, just let me pitch you the idea. I sent loads of things over by email, but I really just wanted to get in a room.
Be
because
with
I
him.
think that is really when you can get your ideas across. But I knew he was very serious and that he will ask questions. So I thought, you need to know everything, because what happens if he asks something, I go, let me get back to you. I'm not going to meet him again.
It's over.
That's the reality. You really got to be as detailed and as informed as you can be. And that's kind of how I came to Julian's interview. Or I say interview, it was more of a consultation, but I felt like it was an interview because I had everything planned, A to Z, in a bag, next to him. So if he said anything,
you're like,
what about insurance?
Whoa.
I'm here. What about kind of the market? How big, or what are your revenue projections? I'm here. What about anything? I've got it in this bag. And he was quite impressed that I'd kind of spent my life on this. Last 3 or 4 weeks, I spent all my time on that. But I think that was really important, so I could be as prepared as possible. And that really gave my idea legitimacy and gave me my idea a seriousness about it. That it's definitely important if you want to get things actioned.
Yeah, and why are you so thorough? Because I noticed in a really positive way, like when we were preparing for this interview, you like had a lot of insights you wanted to share. You were really thorough in preparing, so detailed, and it actually really inspired me to become a bit more detail orientated, regarding this podcast. I was just wondering, where did that come from? Like, why? How are you so thorough, so considerate in everything that you do?
Well, I think kind of preparation is everything, especially when you are a small entity, or even just me as a student trying to take on a big idea, a big market, trying to enact a big idea. I think it's really important that you come across to everyone as legitimate, as informed. So although I didn't want to take anybody else's money, I was really just asking for permission to have an LSE so they can go to other entities at the LSE and really feel confident in my idea. Think Kai is someone serious, someone I will put my faith in as head of estates and put my trust in, because if he felt for any second that this could go wrong, it might have been him on the line, and he would take some of that vulnerability. So I think you really have to come across thorough and detailed and do as much as you can outside so you make sure your idea. And I think that comes part and parcel with being a perfectionist. I think you have to seek perfection in entrepreneurship, and you have to get better every day. You have to seek the highest standards you can seek.
It's funny because I think there's two aspects of entrepreneurship. There's people who are perfectionists like yourself, and people who are like, get it out, whatever it looks like. So how do you think these two can marry, like being perfectionist, but also getting things done?
I've done a lot of kind of research in the entrepreneurship space. And I think the get it out mentality kind of speaks to a lot of American entrepreneurship, very enough. Silicon Valley. Are you familiar with Juul? The vaping pens that were quite big. And I think that is very fast fame entrepreneurship. And kind of they shipped out a lot of products that weren't operating, but also hadn't had the proper medical research. And there really is that fast money, let me get it out mentality, I think. But you have to consider, if you want longevity, you must consider everything, and you must really be detailed. I think that perfection is what provides longevity in brands. I think a lot of the brands today that have lasted the longest seek that perfection, that highest standard of and they might have not been big overnight. And I don't think that's what anyone's really seeking if you're trying to kind of have a longevity in your brand.
Wow, brilliant. And so after you had that chat with the estate guy at LSE, what happened next?
So that chat was kind of the first step in a marathon. It wasn't like that wasn't the finish line. No way. Because after that, it was really up to me. I scheduled a further interview. That's kind of a further meeting. That's kind of what that one small meeting got me. It was the next meeting. And again, I came extremely prepared. And every time I was building on the idea a little bit more, making it more kind of material in his mind, showing him an example of what the social media would look like. I showed him a mock-up of what the cup would look like, kind of the branding, the colors, the cups and how they're recyclable, and the straws and how they're paper and recyclable, and everything I built on day by day. What the machine would look like. I got into Photoshop a lot, and I was kind of Photoshopping the machine in places that I thought they could work in the LSE. And trying to just bring this idea into his mind, as because when someone says bubble tea vending machine, you don't really know what that means.
You can't see it until you see what
you've seen it. You don't really know what that means. People think maybe it's a kind of legacy vending machine where it's pre-made in a cup and it just vends like that. People don't know it's a robotic arm kind of picking up different things and really going at it, something that doesn't actually exist beforehand.
We'll have clips in the podcast so people can really see it.
Please, because I think it is something where people have the idea of vending machine. The reason I don't like using the term vending machine is because people think of that old vending machine in their gym that has 10 Lucozades and a couple fruit bars. But this is an arm, this is a machine, this is AI that will pick up, know the weightings, it has lasers, it has different things, so it can really get that level of precision that a human can't reach, for example. And I think that's the next step in the evolution.
Yeah. And how did you keep going despite the rejection before you met the estate guy?
So kind of even after I met Julian, there was a lot of rejection throughout the journey. It was constantly back and forth with the LSE. The library didn't want to house it. That was my initial kind of space of interest. There was a lot of entities, for example, the catering and maintenance division they weren't against it, but they weren't they were quite a neutral entity. Whereas I was really trying to push it and have that to exist. I think was really difficult. We went through periods where I would have the meetings in maybe September, October, and hear nothing until December. And I would be sending emails every week just to try to keep that discussion going. Remember me? I had that idea.
I'm still here.
And a really big barrier was the legal side of this.
Because it can't be easy bringing these machines onto campus.
I think Julian was very honest with me that the LSE legal team was busy and they are very expensive and they probably wouldn't want to draft any agreement between me and the LSE. So I would have to go and find something myself. And that's kind of when I went out and found an entity that would draft this legal document and would get everything ready. So it's really me doing the legwork.
And you presenting it, like making it as easy as possible.
And I think that kind of is how entrepreneurship is at the start. You really have to build your own legitimacy. No one's going to think that I can do this until I show them, you know what I mean? So that was a big part of it, really, in those winter months and in the new year of 2023, keeping that conversation going with LSE. I would send them the legal document and I wouldn't hear back for maybe a month. And I'd keep sending, keep badgering them for an update. And finally, sometime in May, we finally put pen to paper and got an agreement signed, but it did take a long fight of getting there. But I think it was all worth it in that way that we got it done and had the machine delivered in late September, early October. And kind of we've been running since October 10th, so very new.
Very new. And how did you get that legal entity to support you in drafting your agreement?
So a lot of the kind of the legwork all the way through was really out of my own pocket, and that is kind of something
you've got to discuss
that LS kind of entrepreneurs need to think about. That I took out university loans, I took out kind of that maintenance loan, but also I took out all the money I had in all of my bank accounts that I had in my exposure, any money to my name that existed.
You took it out.
I took it, and I'm not suggesting this is the way to do it, but I really believed in my idea, and I think that is something so central to entrepreneurship is conviction. if you believe in it, go take the risk. But if you're not 100% sure, go back to the drawing board and find something that you 100% believe in, because I believed in this idea and I really thought this would start a conversation for the future. Maybe not just bubble tea, but why can't any drinks be made by a robot? Why can't your bartender have a robotic arm in a bar, for example? And really thought this could be something. So I put all my resources, I put all my time, my effort into it. And the LSE, of course, I'm thankful for them taking it on, but I think that was very central to Julian and his help. But yeah, definitely that whole last year has been very tough in getting the idea. That was kind of a lot of the work.
And to keep going back to the legal entity, because we want to make it as practical as possible, did you Google who could be a good legal advisor? Like, how did you go about that process?
I used the resources, and I would say this to everyone, use the resources you have. Use any family member that you think could be useful. Use a friend that you think is useful. In my case, I found a family member who kind of could help me in this matter. But use whoever. I think that there is a kind of a modern theory or modern kind of rebellious kind of theory where people think I came from nothing and I didn't use anyone on my come up. I think if you have resources, even friends, anyone that you can bounce ideas off, ask a favor, do that, because the worst that people can say is no. Yeah. And then you're the same place that you started, so there's no loss. So I used the family member to help, and kind of throughout I was bouncing ideas off friends. Could this work? What do you think of this branding? Really just using as many resources as I had. And I was fortunate that I had a good base of friends, good family connections that could help me. But I think really
use what you have.
To entrepreneurs, use everything until you can give everyone payment back when everything goes well. If everything goes well. But yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So the next segment of the podcast is Never Have I Ever. And if you've done these things, you're going to drink some bubble tea. Okay. So you've talked about, constantly selling your idea, the constant rejection. So this is kind of like a Never Have I Ever themed with the sales and rejection kind of theme. So never have I ever stayed up all night to meet a crucial business deadline.
Yes, I have.
Me too. I'll drink to that.
This happened many times, because before key meetings where I was presenting the idea, or even before kind of the day the machine arrived, I stayed up because I wanted to make sure every piece in the arrival of this machine was perfect. I mean, you're talking about a machine that weighs the same weight as maybe 2 cars. I mean, it's very heavy, huge machine, very delicate, coming off a big truck with a crane on it. I mean,
you brought that to the LSE.
I mean, and that is something where it needs every minor detail. What could go wrong, not just what can go wrong, what could go wrong, is important, I think. And kind of getting all of that organized was definitely the challenge that needed all my time at night.
So you stayed up throughout the night?
I stayed up throughout the night. The machine got delivered. It got put in probably about 10 a.m. and I wanted to work on it straight away, but I was so tired. I just had to go back home and just sleep and come back the next day.
With a fresh mind, yeah.
Fresh mind, and have a go. But that was very difficult. I think the logistical challenge of getting the machine to the LSE was one of the hardest challenges of the journey. I had a very difficult journey in that sense, that the machine came from China, and I'd paid somebody, a Chinese shipping agent, through the manufacturer, to ship the machine. I said, look, I'll pay you and
just get it to me.
To the LSE. That's all I needed, just to the LSE.
That's all I need, yeah.
He ships it to the UK, all okay. Cool. All okay.
That can be transferred.
And I'm waiting for it to be shipped to the LSE. He calls me up on Friday the 22nd of September. He says, the machine's coming today. I said, all right.
Cool, I'm ready.
I'm there. I got there at 8 in the morning. He called me earlier because the kind of Chinese time's behind. And I was there. I put all LSE on standby. I said, look, it's coming. It's coming.
The BubbleBot is here.
He never came.
Ooh.
And I was thinking, oh no, I've told everyone this looks really bad, and I really don't like looking like that. I don't know the details. So I said to him, what's happened? And it was my worst case scenario. It was not that it's rescheduled. He said it's stuck in Ipswich. We can't deliver it. He says, can you deliver it? I said, I paid you to bring it to the LSE. I said, how can I deliver it? He says, well, you need to find a shipping agent or it's going to stay there. And I said, I paid you. But the thing is, when you're working with international entities, it's very lawless. It's kind of...
Yeah.
It's how it is. There's no way. Who am I going to complain to? So what I ended up doing was paying out of my own pocket about £800, which was really tough. But it was just when the student loan came in. So you had that, yeah. I had the money, but I mean, it wasn't healthy. I wanted that money as kind of business security. But I paid for a contact I found online to ship it from Ipswich all the way to the LSE on a truck called a Hiab truck with a crane on the back. But yeah, it was a logistical nightmare, and that's kind of the times that I stayed up all night, really, because it was that fear: will it come? Will it not come?
Yeah,
has everything stopped because the machine's in Ipswich? I mean, it was terrible.
I can imagine you waiting there, being like, "It's here, guys," and everyone's like,
I mean, it was the worst thing was the day it was here. He then told me it's on a truck where we can't lift it off. He said, you're going to have to get a forklift. I said, I don't have any forklift. He says, sorry, it's your fault. I said, okay, right, solution. Called up like 2 forklift companies, and I had a forklift on standby. The only thing is they said I had to operate it because they didn't have an operator. So I was ready. If it came that day, it would have to be me on a forklift doing something. And I knew I was not going to be able to do it or something like that. So, I mean, it was really difficult, and it kind of really does show that when you are coming up with an idea, it's you on your own to fight and fend for yourself. And a lot of things will go wrong, and you just have to keep positive, have to think solution-based thinking, so you don't get bogged down and you don't kind of...
Yeah, because that's the thing with entrepreneurship, because you don't know every detail, every industry in detail, you kind of like miss certain things. Like obviously you won't know about the forklift and things like that. Like I remember trying to build an app and talking to developers, and they're like, oh, but did you not know that you needed to pay for this and that? And you're kind of like, I don't know. I'm trying to learn on the go. Like
exactly. I think entrepreneurship is so sink or swim, where it's like things will drown you, and you've just got to keep going, keep working, and you have to really clear your schedule so you have time to consider everything. And there will, even with extensive time, there will still be things, because we don't have the specialties about everything.
Of course you can't.
But I think that kind of speaks to why I think entrepreneurship is so important. And I think I'd encourage people to go into entrepreneurship, because especially coming from the LSE, where it's so finance-based.
Yeah.
And in the modern age, it's a meritocracy from such a specialized skill set, investment banking.
Yeah.
And I think entrepreneurship gives you such a wealth of skills. It allows you to be able to problem solve under pressure. I think that's so important. I think those skills are just invaluable.
Cool. So now for this section of the podcast, we're going to go into the present and future of the BubbleBot. So what is the current state of BubbleBot as it stands?
So we were about a month in, month and a week, and we are improving. I mean, we're in that perfectionism stage, definitely. I've got a whole host of upgrades that I want to come out with kind of over the Christmas break while we close for a week or two.
Can you share them?
Well, I've got new flavors that I'm coming up with. Okay. We actually have Chai Spice Surprise, which came out this week. Whoa. And next week, we've got a whole host of winter oolong teas coming out, which you can have hot or cold. And that will be mango, peach, and passion fruit winter oolong. So we've got loads of things happening right now, but also Chinese New Year's around the corner, New Year's around the corner. There will be a lot of new upgrades, new flavors, toppings, you name it, I'll have it.
Yeah.
But I think that's so important. Keeping on your game, keeping everything fresh. So in a demand-based industry, you can keep that customer base happy. But yeah, that really is the imminent future of BubbleBot. But if for the long term, I really would love to expand to other universities. I really enjoy the university space. I think that's a great place for the machine to be and to be housed. I am working on franchising with kind of NYU Festival.
Okay. Is it North?
So that's New York.
Okay.
The big university in New York, and kind of further around America, because I think it's something that could really work in a lot of American campuses. And yeah, I've hopefully in a year's time, you see BubbleBot in a number of locations around the world, because I think it should be in a lot of places. I think in the future it'd be lovely to move on to high street areas and kind of other areas around. I think there's such a market for kind of cheaper bubble tea that is fresh and is got that really cool experience with it, that is made by a robotic arm.
It's really cool.
So I think there definitely is a market there.
So Kai, what are the trends and technology potential founders should be looking at if they want to start a business?
I think there's a lot of buzz right now around AI optimization. I think robotics and AI are two things that are important for the future. And there are always ways that you can implement that. I think to other entrepreneurs, finding efficiencies, and I think business is all about efficiency, and finding efficiencies in your business that you can use is so important. I think another very important aspect that's growing is social media.
Yeah.
I think for the modern entrepreneur, the modern business, social media, you have to get right. Instagram, even TikTok, we're going to move to for BubbleBot. You need to have a core presence, because I think that's sort of your modern website now, where you let people know your updates, your news, your new flavors, whatever it might be. It's really important. So I think those two things are really fundamental. AI and improving efficiency, but also social media is such a key tool.
Brilliant. And so the last final questions we've got for you is, what have been your biggest learnings while doing BubbleBot?
I think I've learned a lot, both about myself and about business. I think I've learned perseverance in a way that I hadn't learned it before, whether that be coding, whether that be programming in Chinese, which is a completely foreign language to me, whether that be replacing a boiler, which I have no experience and I couldn't vet experience of because I would damage my warranty agreement. There are so many obstacles with entrepreneurship that you have to overcome. I think learning the true meaning of perseverance, that you need to stay positive. You can't let a big obstacle overshadow you, and you always can climb over it, I think is the number one thing I've learned, and the number one thing that I would stress to other people. Make the website, make the Instagram, make the social media, start the idea, have that first conversation about your idea to somebody. And from there, maybe a problem comes up, but you always overcome it. And the most successful companies in the world are just the ones that are the best at overcoming problems. I really think so.
Yeah, amazing. And do you have any final words of advice you'd give to aspiring founders?
I think for aspiring founders, people who either have an idea or have started something, I think not letting any bad advice get to you is a big thing for me. I've had countless people in the early days, comments where people didn't like the tea or didn't get their topping as much as they wanted and were complaining. And I think it's easy to be bogged down that to somebody this just looks like a silly machine, for example, in my case. But for me, that was everything. That was all my time and effort for the last year. This was all my money. This was everything I'd worked towards. So I think it's easy to see things and see bad reviews and see advice that would dissuade you from your idea. But I think persevering, again, is the number one thing. You've got to be able to block out negativity. Surround yourself with people that will build you up, will push your idea if you have it. Not people that you're nervous to post your new idea on social media because you think, oh, my best friend will say something and think that I'm trying to be Steve Jobs. But it's really about taking the risk and going for things, because I think nobody entrepreneurial has never not taken a risk. It's always a risk. Even the big companies that we use every day have taken starting risks and overcome a lot of problems. So I think that is the main thing I'd say. Persevere and don't be afraid to start. I think always the best, I don't know who said this, but this is a nice quote. The best time to start your entrepreneurial idea is today, not tomorrow. I think always today is the best. Start it up. Why not have that conversation? Start that dialogue.
Dialogue, for sure. And Kai, this has been such an amazing conversation. And if, for the final closing thoughts of the podcast, just share anything you want to let out.
Well, I'd like to say, it's a plug, but I guess we're talking about it, that BubbleBot is quite a young idea, and we're really in quite a saturated bubble tea space and trying to be different because it is very experience-based. But if you ever buy LSE, drop by, have a taste, and see what bubble tea made by a robot tastes like. Yeah. And hopefully watch us in a couple of years. We'll be around the world, hopefully. Yeah. And in other universities and maybe on high streets one day. I think that will be the goal. Yeah,
and you saw it here first, guys.
There you
Kai's
go, Nova&Boba.
Story. Nova&Boba and BubbleBot. So thank you for being here.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. Thank you for having me. And
thank you.
I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with Kai. Just showing that having that level of attention to detail is paramount when you're trying to build a brand for longevity. And we really hope you gathered really actionable insights to do this for your own future brand. If there's any part of the podcast you found useful, please comment below and subscribe and share this podcast with your friends.